Welcome to this week's episode of Lagniappe. I'm Rob Holbert, your host, and we have a roll call. Let's see who all's here this week.
Ashley Trey,
Scott Johnson,
Dale Leash,
Kyle Hamrick,
Tommy Hicks.
and Brady Petrie will be in after he finishes his lunch.
After he finishes shoving fried chicken in his face.
Yep.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so we had a pretty big story this week, Dale, on the cover. Got something you've been working on for a while.
Yeah.
Had a records request in with the governor's office for a little bit anyway, right?
Yeah, a few months, I would say.
To get it.
I don't really, I'd have to go back through my emails and tell you exactly how long, but it's been a few months.
Somebody was saying on a radio station recently that we were following up on their story, and it was like, we had this in motion before, and they didn't even do a story, but it had become an issue. But we've been working on this for a while. So you got Kay Ivey's.
Wait, I'm
calendar.
confused. Somebody else is taking credit for our story?
No,
is that what you're saying?
it just was brought up on
that we were
on a
catching
news
someone
talk
else's
station.
coattails.
it was someone who was uninformed of the timeline of how this was going down.
Yes, we'll deal with that later.
I'll tell you during the break.
Okay,
but
because that's fine. I now we've gone off the rails because I'm seeing red fury.
It's all right. It's not. But anyway,
no one else had this story. This is our story.
So you got 3 months of Kay Ivey's records?
Yeah, from August to November, August 14th to November 14th, and the records were her official calendar, her day-to-day schedule, calendar, whatever you want to call it. I think I called it those two things at various points in the story. And what it showed to us is that more than half of the time, way more than, I think 68% of the time, she didn't have anything on her calendar after 3 p.m. Yeah. So the majority of her days, the vast majority of her days ended before at or before 3, and several of them, ended before then. There were several times where she had one thing on the schedule.
A lot of times,
and then nothing else.
Most of the things she had on her calendar were only about half an hour too.
Right.
I noticed, even if she had like two things.
Some of them were, and I gave her the benefit of the doubt on a lot of this stuff too, because like some of the things that I gave her credit for were meetings that she took at the executive mansion. Yeah. Like, so she didn't leave, she didn't have to leave the house. She didn't leave the house, so to speak.
Often, yes.
And I know that that's sort of the new way of doing things now, which is fine, but I wouldn't expect that from our governor, I guess. She's also the oldest governor in the country. Is that right?
She is. Yeah. But I mean, okay. So why are we picking on the governor? Why are we writing about this? What's the issue? So tell us, what's the issue?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things the state could improve on, and there's a lot of things that we could use the governor's leadership on, I think. And it doesn't appear that she works what I would consider a full-time schedule.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are working full-time schedules. I think we get, we're 40 hours or more most weeks.
Well, it's also been, there's certainly been an undercurrent of decline and talk about, her level of decline and the level of management that she requires at this point. And it's been, it's been this way since she took office, I think. I mean, I've always been critical of her it's
also sort of in the zeitgeist now. We're talking about older politicians who may not be as fit to serve as they used to be. You heard it you saw it with Joe Biden in the 2024 election where he eventually dropped out.
Yeah. I mean, because he got out there and did a debate
clearly
and couldn't
But here's the thing about Ivey. She didn't debate this last time. There are people that are in prominent positions in media today that advocated for her not to debate, which is asinine. It is asinine to expect. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you should want the people to debate. The only reason that Biden became the national story that he became was because he got his ass kicked in a debate, and frankly he shouldn't have. It wouldn't. I don't think it would have been that hard to out debate his opponent, but he got his bell rung, and so people were like, well, maybe he's not as up to the task as we thought. We don't know. We didn't know that about Ivey because she didn't debate anybody.
Well, I mean,
so next time, when we decide that the person we want in office shouldn't debate, maybe we should think about it again.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, for those of us who cover her and cover meetings where she appears and things, where she shows up, and when she does occasionally offer comments, they are very carefully managed.
Yes.
If you ask a question that they don't want you to ask, they rush her out of the room.
Right. And she doesn't speak for very long usually. And I noticed it for the first time years ago when we did when she had the thing for the thing out at Brookley for the
airport,
the Brookley by the Bay project.
Yes.
Brookley by the Bay project.
Yes. Yeah.
She was looking, I mean, she's 80 years old. Yeah. She's 80 years old. So she's going to look old.
And then some people at 80 are certainly more, with it than others. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not a blanket condemnation of being 80, but it is, I think, from her very beginning of being in office, and I mean, she's in her,
this is her second official term.
Her second term, so she's been in office.
Been in office
8 years at this point.
10. It's probably been closer to 10, right? Because she took over from Bentley.
I think she took about 2 years of Bentley's, and she's about 2 years. She has 2 years left in her term. I think she's been in office about 8 years at this point. And, even at the beginning, it was very difficult to. I mean, she didn't speak to the media. It was not something where you could actually talk to her very much. Her ads and her all of her campaign ads portray her as this sort of sassy grandma type thing, and she's shooting targets and doing things like that. But I mean, the reality of it is, and I've heard this from lots of people who are in the legislature and people who work up there with her, is that. I mean, they said, she's done early in the day. It is.
That's why I made 3 p.m. such an integral part of this story, is because we for years have heard that there's nothing on her schedule after 3 p.m. Right, and you can make of that whatever you wish, but that was the case, and it's. I think we kind of confirmed it here, at least with the 2-month snapshot we have.
I don't think we kind of confirmed it. I think it's confirmed. I think it's absolutely confirmed.
I mean, too, but also, I mean, the 3 p.m. is important, but I think 2 other things, the lack of a number of, I mean, my schedule's busier than hers, and I have a business partner that we have the workload. I mean, one of her days was the Kiwanis Club in Montgomery, which she took a plane to, by the way, the 1 hour and a half drive, and that was
to the Kiwanis Club in Montgomery.
I mean, not Montgomery. I'm sorry, Birmingham.
Birmingham Kiwanis.
Birmingham. Yeah, she didn't fly into Montgomery.
She didn't fly to Montgomery.
Fly around the city and drop her off.
On another day, the only thing on her schedule was
the Kiwanis Club in Montgomery.
Montgomery. So, I mean, that's just
there are several days I saw.
That probably required a 10-minute speech before they had lunch.
I mean, there are definitely lots of days that I looked at where it was a half-hour meeting with somebody at the, a call with so-and-so, or half an hour meeting with somebody, and that was all that was on her schedule. You have to think, if there was a little more vibrant leadership, there would be more going on.
Well, also,
is she meeting
she was meeting with, too. There were no titans of industry, really. It was
not even a lot of legislators. In fact, the House Pro Tem, Speaker Pro Tem of the House, Chris Pringle here in Mobile, said I don't think he'd met with her in over a year.
Yeah.
He's number 2 in the House, and he hasn't met with the governor in over a year.
Look, even when she was messing with Kent Davis and trying to get rid of Kent Davis at the Veterans Affairs Administration, and called a special meeting to try to get him fired, she didn't show up.
She had a proxy there, correct?
She didn't show up for the meeting, and I mean, that's right there in town. So it was not like, it's an issue. I think it has been an issue.
And I mean, you've written about the fact that there are positions that she has yet to fill. That's her duty to fill. She has just If she had a robust schedule and this stuff wasn't happening, that'd be one thing. It's like, okay, I get it. It's not a priority for you. But this is just like, not only is it not a priority for you, you're just clearly not going to do it, which is a problem.
Well, and there's also just the reality is what initiatives have come out of the governor's office in the last 6 months or year.
Well, that's true. I was going to point to the gas tax, but that was even over a year ago.
Those are the things that we're talking about still, even the school choice, things like that. That's 2 years old. These are things that have been done a long time ago. There's nothing really that I can think of that she has pushed forward as governor in the last couple of years, and we still have 2 more years of her her term in office. So, I mean, it just looks like she's kind of on a glide path.
She's coasting, right?
She's on a glide path, as I say. She's coasting in. As trying to just kind of glide in and finish up 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's this has always been my issue with the Ivey administration's attitude. Is that the attitude I feel from it is everything's okay in Alabama. We're fine the way we are. There's nothing there about let's move forward, let's get something done. It's kind of like, we're good. And, people like her. She's popular.
She's very popular.
And so, okay, they like her because she talks in
and had a lot of people
country
defend
colloquialisms
her.
and she's reminds everybody of their grandma. But I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's just, what makes her popular, I really don't know.
This whole idea, like, just because you can run for a second term doesn't necessarily mean you should,
Yeah.
I don't know. And everybody we talked to from the lawmaker standpoint, told me they were familiar with health issues she's had. So, I mean, I get that, but nobody made you run for a second full term.
But you still have, guys like Greg Albritton, Senator Albritton, who's just like, she's great. You get her in a meeting, she's on point, and that's
exactly what we were hearing about Biden before it all fell apart.
So it's just this sort of protectionist thing. I would love for Kay Ivey to sit down and answer questions extemporaneously without somebody looming over her shoulder, grabbing her and taking her away the second you ask her a tough question. Whenever we asked about those things with Kent Davis, she was immediately grabbed up and taken out of the room. It's just, I think it's an issue. I mean, personally, I think she ought to have to, at this juncture, I think she ought to have to prove that she's capable of doing the job or step aside.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen unless people really push it and the legislature pushes it. But I don't think you're going to see that.
I mean, judges in Alabama aren't supposed to work past 70, right? Yep. So, like, why can't we do that with our elected leaders? Judges are elected. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't do it. Say governor can't be governor after 70.
Well, I don't,
or whatever.
Maybe 70 is too young. I don't know. It's not that
maybe
issue.
Put it,
But it's just, it is different for different people. But I do think, I mean, first of all, I think people ought to have to debate. I think it ought to be required to debate. And I think that's one thing, at least in a debate situation, you can't hide. And she's been hiding the entire time she's been in office, in the governor's office. And so I think that's the big issue.
And just the measuring stick that, so many of these Republicans used against Biden when he was, in the basement, or, that was a common one. And, it's just like that doesn't apply here locally, but it's the same criticisms. It's the same, who are we going to point to when, 2 years down the road, everyone's like, why is this, woman still our governor? Why didn't anybody say anything?
What happened? I mean, and that'll be the complaint, is that the media hid it from everybody, 2 years from now or 3 years from now or whatever, when what we finally discover what is going on up there, which the Weekend at Bernie's program that's happening. And so, but we're just trying to get it out there. I think that's do
with the information I think
the information is very suggestive of issues that we are having. Either she just doesn't want to work or she can't work.
And I do want to point out, in fairness, that the governor's spokeslady told us that this isn't necessarily what they gave us for an official calendar isn't necessarily everything she does on a day-to-day basis.
But as Ashley pointed out in her column, there's phone calls on that. Thing. There's other things on there.
It looked pretty comprehensive to me.
There are things that one might.
I just wanted to put that out there.
I get you, but the spokesman was like, well, there's phone calls and things like that. Well, there are phone calls on her schedule. I don't know why some are on there and some are off.
Yeah. It was both with her, just like with staff members and ones that you would probably deem important, like with Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, there's some that are really just like phone call with your chief of staff on there. So, I mean, what are the things that were not important enough to put on there? I don't know. But it's just,
we had her lunch with friends on there.
Yes.
And what's stopping Gina from showing us her phone records? I mean, if there was actually that many phone calls, why not just show us where
we didn't ask for phone records, to be fair.
Just put this all to rest and sit down for an interview and show you're capable. I mean, is it really that hard?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that happen.
No.
Anyway, good story. It's up there right now, and we have the entire log out there, folks. You can read.
You can click on it and read it for yourself.
Click on it and read it for yourself and see what's there. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with with Tommy Hicks in just a moment.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagniappe Daily is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. While the coffee's pouring, the local troops on every page, news for the folks of every age.
It's just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagniappe Daily's on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lagniappe Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local troops on every page, news for the folks of every age.
We are back with the lovely and talented Tommy Hicks.
And Brady Petrie has joined us as well.
Brady has joined us with a mouthful of chicken.
Howdy, everybody.
So, Tommy, we've got we are now close to the championship game in NCAA football.
Yep.
And we got a local guy right in the mix. Quarterback for Notre Dame.
Riley Leonard, quarterback for Notre Dame. So that brings a little different context to the game for.
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, if you're a local person, you see him out there. Fairhope guy, right?
Yep. He's very well liked in this area, and for good reason. Good kid, really good kid. He's had a great season. We'll see if it's a really, really great season.
Yeah.
On Monday night when they play Ohio State, Ohio State's favored by a bunch, I would think.
9.5, I think.
I like how everybody looks to Brady. You know.
Yeah, I happen to know.
Brady, what's the spread?
What are your friends saying the spread is, Brady?
Yeah, my hypothetical friends are saying it is 9.5.
Brady, when are you going to start your gambling podcast here? Pretty soon, the Lagniappe Gambling.
Well, I know nothing.
Numbers with Brady.
I know nothing about that world, but if I did, if Lagniappe gave me some credit to go out there and float some, parlays or something, who knows?
Maybe see how successful you are.
But again, I know nothing about that world.
I got you. So,
it's probably the first time ever that Notre Dame has been a beloved team in this area.
Yeah.
Because they're really pulling for Riley.
Yes.
And so it's going to be interesting. The whole Fairhope community's really gotten behind this.
What do you think? I mean, it's hard to look at those two teams and think that they have a great chance. I mean,
Ohio State
looks like a juggernaut. I mean, they look rough.
They look unstoppable.
They look tough, but
stranger things.
Touchdown Jesus wants Notre Dame.
I'm just curious how Michigan fans are handling this. This would, for an Alabama fan, this would be like Auburn playing Tennessee for the national title. I don't think I'd be doing very well. So my heart goes out to Michigan fans everywhere.
Maybe they're not haters like you are. Maybe
no, they very much are. Yeah,
they're not the kind of.
They might be worse.
No, oh God, there we go.
We got Senior Bowl coming up pretty soon too.
We do.
Yeah,
we do. In fact, they're going to have a press conference next Monday with some of the players, bringing some of the players in that are going to be in the game.
Who are the coaches this year? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
We don't know. I guess they don't pick that until later, do they?
Yeah, I mean, they have that every other year thing now, and right. I think this is a year where they'll just bring in like assistants.
Whoever, and then some years it's like the people who...
The whole staff.
I believe that's right. It is. The whole staff is made up of assistants and coordinators.
Well, any big names showing up new names on
there's going to be some
players?
Big names in here.
Jalen Milroe will be there.
Yeah, if you'll give me a second, I'll go over that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's the only one I remember.
Anyway, you can take Jalen Milroe off your list.
I did say Jalen Milroe. We could just take him off. Shamar James, Riley Leonard.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Riley Leonard will be here.
Everybody likes to look at the quarterbacks. They got a really good group of quarterbacks. Riley Leonard, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Dylan Gabriel from Oregon.
That is a good group.
Jackson Dart, Ole Miss.
Okay.
And Tyler Shaw from Louisville.
Okay.
So that's a really good group. And there's a lot of Malachi Moore from Alabama is going to be here. Jarquez Green from Auburn is here.
Didn't Cam Ward from Miami, didn't he accept an invite here as well? I know Nagy had talked about it. I don't know.
He's not on the list.
Turn it down.
He got cut.
I think what would be interesting is usually they have 6 quarterbacks, 3 per team. But there have been a couple of years recently where they have had a lot of quarterback possibilities for the draft, where they moved it up to 8. I think if Cam Ward says he wants to play, they're going to find a place for him. And then it'll be interesting to see if Quinn Ewers is added now that he has declared for the draft. Now, I don't know if he can qualify. He's a junior, but if you've declared for the draft, you might be eligible to do it, or you may have to be or at least a junior graduate, but to play in the game. I'm not sure how that rule works, but they may decide to go with both of those guys and add some more quarterbacks.
How is the overall health of the Senior Bowl in terms of attracting top players? I mean, it sounds like it's still attracting the top players.
They're still getting a lot of the top prospects from the draft, especially obviously the seniors. You always miss out on guys that are juniors, some juniors that haven't qualified to be in the game, or that are sophomores that have been there for like 2 or 3 years, 4 years, and can go ahead and enter the draft. You miss those guys. But otherwise, I mean, unless you're just a really top prospect who doesn't need a good performance in the
Senior Bowl, you could only be hurt by going out there.
Pick. Yeah. Like Eli Manning didn't come to this game. He knew he was going. So unless you're that guy, then they pretty much do a pretty good job of bringing in, the better players that the NFL scouts want to see.
Yeah. As always, it's really the practices where the scouts they're usually gone by the time the game happens, don't they?
The scouts are gone. Thursday afternoon, they're out.
They're out.
For the most part, they've hit it and gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
The game is for the fans.
The game's for the fans.
Then lately, a lot of guys will play like one series and then they don't.
Yeah.
Or they opt out of the game altogether.
Yeah.
So, the game is for the fans to see the players out there running around or have a chance to get autographs.
Yeah, it's still a lot of fun. It's a great event, and we always hear all this predictions that it's going to leave or it's going to die out or something, but it seems like it's going strong and doing well. So you also have this week, I think, your all-area flag football team.
All area, first time we've ever done it. Well, it's only the second year they've had it here in this area. Teams in this area have played, and Daphne and Alma Bryant dominated. They were both one-loss teams. Daphne lost in the state semifinals to Central of Phoenix City, which was not only the best team in the state, but they were voted USA Today's national number 1 team. They haven't lost in like 3 years that they've all been playing. I don't think they've ever lost. So they lost to them, but the Grayson twins. Mary Margaret is our player of the year.
Okay.
They're both on the team. Maddie Marie made the team. Abby Johnson of Daphne is our offensive player of the year. And Zach Ward's our coach of the year. So we had a lot of, good representation on it. It was fun to do, but, that first time going out with a sport that's pretty young and not a lot of teams, you just hope that you've covered everybody that should be covered. So
I'm sure y'all managed to get it done. Well, thank you so much, Tommy. We're going to take a quick break, folks. We'll be right back with our third segment.
Just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagniappe Daily. Get signed up now at lagniappemobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
And we are back. Well, we had a development in the whole, I guess, scandal over at City Hall with the police department.
Yeah.
Paul Prine and of course there was Levy who got a settlement the other day.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, former police chief Paul Prine filed a lawsuit against the city over his firing in April on Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
So that was fun to write about on Christmas Eve.
Yep. You've been complaining about that for several weeks now. I'm sure if regular podcast listeners have heard you bitch about that now 6 times. All right.
Have I talked about it before? All right. Anyway.
Yeah, several times.
I apologize. So we wrote about that. But there's been a development in that as insofar as that Kevin Levy, who was fired as a result of a special counsel investigation into some of the allegations that Prine made, reached a settlement with the city for $50,000.
So what is that?
He was fired, I think, in June.
I mean, what does that tell us? I mean, he got fired. The city, after firing him, said, "Hey, we could find you another job in the city." And he declined that, took this lawsuit. He ends up with $50,000, which the lawyer,
and I want to point out,
the lawyer's going to get a big chunk of that.
Yeah, it wasn't a full lawsuit either. It was a notice of notice of claim. So it didn't even get to the point of a lawsuit.
Right.
And I'm not a legal mind, so I couldn't tell you the difference.
Basically, a notice of claim is like, I'm about to sue you.
Yeah. So they just skipped that whole point, and they gave him $50,000. And Christine Hernandez, who ended up being his attorney for this, basically said this allows him to move on with his life and his business, and kind of put this behind him. And also, she pointed out that he has already, he's claimed his innocence from any wrongdoing already, and that she was happy.
What he was accused of doing was basically more or less falsifying a report to a degree, or at least tricking the administration.
The special counsel that the city council hired to look into the allegations from Prine found out that a report that was kind of negative towards the police department, and it's in relation to Project Echo Stop, which was the cameras and the shot spotter thing.
Which Levy oversaw.
Which Levy oversaw. It was a report. It was a report that said that the police department didn't support it enough.
Right.
And it was a report that we found out later that Levy wrote.
Right.
And that a third party reviewed. Well, in that third party review, they made apparently the city or someone made some changes to the contract, and instead of going back through the motions of having everybody sign, Levy attached a signature page to a new from an old document to a new one. I don't know how big a deal that actually is. It seems to me, if you listen to Levy, and it makes sense that a lot of that a lot of the basis of the contract remained the same. It was like small changes. Yeah. So it is what it is. But that was enough for the administration to fire him, and then he filed this notice of claim, and they've now settled.
Yeah, so. I mean, to me, and I don't know that it was Levy who decided to do any of this. I mean,
no, we don't. Well, yeah,
and it's
he also claims that he was fired because he wouldn't find dirt on Paul Prine.
Yes.
To be fair and get all the information out there. That is what he says.
Right. And I mean, his circumstance with that report was that report went to this company, this third party company that just came out of nowhere. Just basically was formed, it seems, to do this work. Yeah. And then it was bounced back to the city as if it came from that company, that group, but it was really written by him.
It was written by him, and I guess that they, the company in question, I guess, looked it over and reviewed it.
Yeah.
I think Paul Prine in his lawsuit said that they basically were glorified fact checkers.
Yes, I guess, but even so, it's written as if it is from them. It's not. It is
correct.
When you read it, it is not.
We had a copy of it, and there's nothing that says on the report that Levy wrote it. So I understand the confusion.
Yes, it comes from them as if they did it. They did the work. So I mean, it's some of it's kind of strange. I mean, the low number on the settlement doesn't really say a lot for his claims either. But it's.
I mean, the fact that they settled it all says a little bit, like, maybe
well, I mean, it says that they know it's going to be a pain to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think with the Prine lawsuit hanging over their head too, that there's, having two of those things hanging out there is not good. And I mean, what may be said or what may come out is there may be some issues. Right. So, but we'll have to stay tuned on that one. And then this week we're also talking about TikTok. The latest with TikTok. Everybody's worried about it going away.
When's the deadline? The 19th?
It's the 19th. Sunday night at midnight.
Now,
clock's ticking.
Brady, you wrote the latest story for us on that, and my understanding is that the Supreme Court had a hearing to see if the ban was constitutional. And from what I gather, and I'm going to ask you because you wrote the story. From what I gather, is it didn't necessarily go well for TikTok?
It doesn't seem that way.
Okay.
And basing that solely off of AP reporting, they had people there in the courtroom reporting it in live time, but it doesn't seem like the Supreme Court's going to extend the deadline for the ban. They're going to let it be upheld. Now, the real question is what happens on January 20th after Donald Trump takes office, because he has flip-flopped his position on TikTok. He was initially against it. Now he's come out in favor of it, basically saying that really helped him get elected, in his opinion.
So it's good.
Right. So now it's good, of course. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he takes office, because will they reverse course and say, well, we're actually going to extend the deadline past, we're going to reinstate TikTok, we're going to extend the deadline, or are they just going to let it stand?
Tell us what it is the U.S. government is asking TikTok to do.
They're asking TikTok's parent company, which is ByteDance, it's a Chinese based company. They're asking them to completely divest TikTok and sell it to a American business.
The fear, of course, is that they are gathering information, right?
Right.
What information are they gathering on us?
That's a good question. And to be fair, to TikTok, politicians who have put out this claim that they're stealing information haven't exactly specified what information it is.
Why is it any different than the information they're gathering on us from every other?
That's a great point. And I spoke with a professor from South who brought up a good point, who said, like you said, how is this different from Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where you've had
or your phone listening to you while you're talking or doing anything?
Facebook's an American company that's spying on us. Damn it!
Yeah, right.
That's a fair point. Yeah, it's fine.
Zuck's not going to do anything bad with that information.
Why would Zuckerberg do anything bad with that information?
Absolutely.
It's also the algorithm. They claim that they can weaponize the algorithm to spread social contagion.
Weaponize the algorithm to spread social contagion.
Slow down, George Orwell.
When they were trying to fight this, they kind of did that and proved that they could do that. Because they got all of their influencers to go on and speak out against it, which got everyone worked up.
But I mean,
Facebook also spreads social contagion.
But everybody's doing this. That's the thing. It's like, what information does China want on me that is
your
going to do
grandma has some messed up views because of Facebook
on them? What's it going to do?
A flat earther.
I totally agree too. But I guess the argument is that maybe if it's an American company, they're going to always be on Team USA, and that China could somehow.
I mean, couldn't
use
China
this
just
against us in some way?
Couldn't China just buy this information?
They could buy from
Facebook anyway. I mean, I don't know. I find it kind of ridiculous.
I also note that Facebook is banned in China.
There are some reports that have come out that say that more than 500,000 people who used to be on TikTok have now gone to a TikTok-like app that is directly run by a Chinese company and is written in Chinese.
Well,
called the Little Red Book.
The Little Red Book.
Yeah. Like Chairman Mao's
dog.
Apparently that's not banned.
That's not banned.
It took all of, I saw a screenshot from somebody who has joined that app, and it took all of 24 hours for fans to be claiming SEC football dominance against the Chinese.
There we go. Yeah,
we have already taken over the Little Red Book.
They're getting what they need now. So, I mean, what you focused on in your story here also is about local businesses that use TikTok, and people who are have built their businesses on this are saying, "Whoa, man, this is going to really hurt us." There's a lot of folks doing it, right?
There are. There's a lot of people who do business primarily through TikTok, and spoke with a woman named Jessica Simon. She owns their own candle company in Foley, who said
the Chinese are dying to have information on those candles.
They're dying to have information on the candles and laundry detergents she sells. Yes. But she said that they do 95% of their business on TikTok.
That's amazing.
It is insane. And I think they've sold around 35 5,000 or so products through TikTok, compared to the second most popular site where they sell their stuff, which is Etsy. They've only sold 14 or 15 products on Etsy. So it's a huge drop off.
Huge difference for them.
Huge impact on these local companies that are relying on TikTok to, it's basically free advertising. I mean, pretty much everybody's got the app on their phone, and you just scroll by and you say, hey, that TikTok, that candle or laundry detergent, want to buy it. And
I think literally half the country has TikTok on their phone. 150 million.
The number I saw was around 170 million.
We get a lot of really good recipes off of TikTok. Now, I may be manipulated into thinking they're good. I don't know what,
That's the algorithm.
You don't see any recipes for Chinese food, though, Rob.
We've not been eating any.
Which is weird.
No, it's smart. It's smart like a fox. Yeah, that's it. That's the way to do it.
No, I also use it primarily for cooking advice, and it's great. It's really the only social media that I use on a regular basis now. I'm on Facebook and Twitter for work stuff, but I don't. No. Unless something nice happens with my wife that I can publicize on Facebook, I don't, or sell Girl Scout cookies. I don't use it.
I use it to watch funny cat videos with my kids before they go to bed.
Yeah. TikTok, yes.
It's a popular request before bed.
Well, they're gathering information on your cat.
Yes. How can I put my children to sleep?
I don't know. It's a
thanks, Biden.
It's a weird one, man. It's a very weird one. We'll see where it goes from here, but I think certainly for those folks who built businesses around it, it's a tough thing to have to deal with.
It's one thing to be put out personally by a band. It's another thing for 95% of your business to go away in one day.
It is rough.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just saying, well, that's all we got for this week. I thought that's all we had for this week. Dale, did you have more?
It's fine. No. Ignore my flights of fancy. We're good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to call it quits for this week. We'll be back next Thursday with the next Lagniappe. Thank you very much for listening.
Love you. Bye.
The Lagniappe is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbrook and Ashley Trice. Music is by Sunpulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lagniappemobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.